Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video for today. So for those that did miss the 3-hour long live stream where we went over the earnings report and listened to the earnings call, here's a quick video recapping everything. Now, if you just look at the 4% drop after hours and make up your mind whether or not this is a good or a bad quarter, I'm sorry to say this is the wrong way to invest. First, look at the results, make up your mind, and then see what the market thinks of it. Okay? The market is also not always correct. Another thing, don't forget that this is a stock that is performing quite well year to date and has more than doubled since the lows back in April. There's a lot of expectations baked in. Now, to me, bottom line, very good quarter. Actually a nice beat. Guidance also beat analyst expectations, beat my expectations as well. So let's go over everything you need to know from this earnings report and comments made on the call. If you enjoy this type of videos, hit all the buttons, would really appreciate that. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern, we're going live. Uber, Shopify, Novo Nordisk, Oscar earnings report. We're probably going to listen to Uber's earnings call. So stay tuned for that. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the live streams. And if you want to support me even further, do check out the link down in the description and in the pinned comment to the top 10 best stocks to buy now, or go to fool.com/couchinvestor. Thank you very much. All right, so major overview here. Also, by the way, for those that think that I invested in AMD because I do think that this is the next NVIDIA, completely wrong. I don't think AMD is the next NVIDIA. I don't think there is a next NVIDIA. I think that AMD is just going to be a very, very good company to own for the upcoming years. I think it's going to be a very, very good business that becomes extremely profitable over time, and that's why I own it. Now, this quarter, revenue increased 32% year over year, gross profit up 7%, gross margin down 10 percentage points, but that's if you include the one-time charges. If you exclude the charges, gross margin would have been 54%, which would have been in line or a slight beat in expectations. And of course, it would have been up compared to the 53% we had same quarter last year. Operating income, same explanation here, and same with operating margin. Now, inside of AMD, of course, you have a couple of business segments: data center, client and gaming, and embedded. Previously, client and gaming were actually two different segments, but we do have Fiscal.ai that will provide us with the difference here. So, data center up only 14% year over year and down sequentially. Operating a loss for the quarter here as well. So you might say, oh, what's going on here, right? Shouldn't this be a money-making machine, a money printer? Yes, it should. And now, if we look at this is the second quarter in a row that this is in a decline, right? Even if we actually look here at operating income, okay, last quarter was still good margin-wise, but this quarter, it's a loss. How does that make any sense? Well, here again, it's the impact of the US exports restrictions. That's why this has happened. Now, with regards to what happens going forward, well, it all has to do with the license. It has to do with when they get their license back to sell the MI308. And then, since this is a work in progress product, not a product that they just have on a shelf right now, and once they get the license, poof, it's done. This will take some time to get recognized, probably a couple of quarters, they said. Now, the beauty of this is that none of the MI308 is included in the guidance. So whatever they can make, however quickly they get their license, and however quickly they can ramp it up and sell it and ship it, that's going to be pure upside for the business. So that's good to know. Then, client and gaming, that was up 69% year over year. Very nice number. Operating income up 362% year over year. As for embedded, that's still a drag for now, down 4% year over year, and operating income here down 20% year over year. But you can see that embedded is a very, very high margin business. I mean, even when the whole industry is still facing some headwinds, although they do expect embedded to see growth again. Margin-wise, this is a very, very good business to have. So as we've seen, this was data center. What about client revenue? Purely client revenue, up 67.5% year over year to just under $2.5 billion in revenue. So also nice up sequentially, and year on year basically increased by $1 billion. Then looking at client and gaming operating income, as you can see, also a very good increase sequentially and year over year. Now, why did we see such a big increase? Well, look at gaming. Gaming was up 73% year over year. Sequentially, we basically added here $500 million, almost doubled sequentially gaming. So that was great. And as you can see, for embedded, overall operating income and revenue over the last couple of quarters and maybe years here as well, you can see this is a very, very high margin business. I mean, if we go back to April 23, it's almost a 50% margin business. So imagine what happens when we are going to see growth again for embedded. You add that on top of strength for client and gaming. You add that on top of data center recovering, right? With the ramp up of the MI350. Next year we have the MI400. You put all of that together, you get a very, very good business, don't you think? Then I want to make something very clear. This is something that you've probably seen in my other videos as well. Comparing AMD and NVIDIA right now doesn't make much sense. Okay, if we purely look here at free cash flow margin, NVIDIA, high 40%. AMD, before this quarter, was closer to 10%. If we go here and look at the free cash flow generated from the quarter, that's almost $1.2 billion. Last year, for the whole first 6 months of the year, they generated 1.9. Here in one quarter, we're already generating $1.2 billion with margins of 15%. 15% free cash flow margin, so we can expect this to continue to increase. What would they do with all their free cash flow? Invest in the business and buy back more shares. They said in the first half of the year, they bought back $1.2 billion worth of shares. They expect to buy back more shares in the upcoming quarters. Now, with regards to gross margins, this is something that I've talked with Jose during the live stream. I don't know if we're going to see such a huge increase like we've seen with NVIDIA, but I do think that we can see AMD gross margins in the 60%, low 60s, probably after the launch of the MI400. I think that's definitely a possibility. But as you can see, in the meantime, they keep on increasing their gross profit margin each and every quarter. Now let's go over a couple of comments that they said during the call. So excluding the write-downs, margins would have been 54%. As for the product mix, the server business, which has nice gross margin, is helping to drive the overall gross margin. The client business, particularly commercial PC segment, is also contributing positively to margin expansion. The gaming business has quite high gross margins, but its mix in the quarter was unfavorable. The company's objective is to continue to improve gross margin even with the ramp of the MI350 series, which is a key priority for the company's data center segment. So when we look at the guidance that they gave us, right, they gave us again gross margins next quarter 54%, which means flat quarter over quarter, but they are still ramping up the MI350. Now you might say, okay, but shouldn't that help with margins? My answer here, yes. And I do think that margins will come in better than expected. As for the ramp up of the MI350s, that's the most significant growth driver going forward. The MI355 is considered very competitive against the B200 and GB200 families of products and is particularly strong for inferencing, with the company also actively working with customers on training. Because for some strange reason, some people talk about AMD as if they're the king of inference and NVIDIA doesn't know anything about inference. That's completely wrong. AMD, is well positioned for inferencing, but it's not like NVIDIA has forgotten about inference. Not at all. Then as for server CPUs, continued growth in server CPU sales is expected, fueled by demand for both cloud and on-premise compute to support AI workloads. There is a strong desire to really use AMD at scale among customers, indicating growing market acceptance. The MI400 is expected for 2026, in my opinion, probably the back half of 2026, which the message that I got is that the MI350 series is very, very good, but the MI400 is just so much better because it does offer that full rack solution. And so customers are more inclined to talk with AMD more about the MI400. That's just the message that I got. But I've always said that 2026 is really when the fun starts for this business. As for the client side of it, the company anticipates client revenue to increase. In Q3, AMD is gaining market share in all the right places, driven by a richer product mix. The company is selling up the stack on the strength of its portfolio, leading to higher ASPs or average selling prices. As for gaming, semi-custom revenue saw a large double-digit % increase year over year as console inventories normalized and customers prepared for the holiday season. Demand for the latest generation Radeon 9000 series GPUs was very strong, with desktop GPU sell-through accelerating, the demand outpacing supply. Now, if we look at the last part here, which is embedded, returning to sequential growth. So they are expected to grow sequentially in Q3, recovering from period of mixed end demand market. Growth will be driven by improving demand in test and measurement communication and aerospace market. Design win momentum continues to build, tracking ahead of last year's pace. Remember, last year, $14 billion design wins for the year. They expect to beat that number in 2025. Last thing here for guidance, the market was expecting $8.32 billion. AMD guided for $8.4 billion. AMD guided for $7.4 billion for this quarter, and they came in at $7.7 billion. So I'd say probably again, they're going to beat their own expectations of $8.7 billion next quarter. Last thing here, and that's the stock reaction. Someone in chat did say that the implied volatility was 7.5%. Right now, the stock is down 5%. So maybe tomorrow when the market opens, we might be going a little bit lower, which means that, yeah, we could be revisiting that 20-day moving average at around $163 or so. Would it be so bad? I don't think so. Remember, last Friday, we were at $166. Last Friday was a couple of trading days ago, right? We were back in the end of July, we're also at $160. Stock is a little bit overbought, but okay, tomorrow probably not anymore. Like I said during the stream, if we do revisit the 140s, low 140s, that's when I will start accumulating more and more. And if it does go lower, I don't think it will, but if it does, then I'll accumulate even more aggressively. But bottom line, to me, AMD, the quarter was a very good quarter. Guidance was a good guidance given. The problem, I'd say, is the market is still on the fence, right? We didn't really get that AI revenue for the year. Still a question mark. Okay. The hit from China, the licenses and all of that, it's out of their control, I guess. It's when they'll get the license, when they can ship the products, remains to be seen, but they did say it's going to take a couple of quarters. But all in all, every single aspect of their business is doing exactly what it should be doing. Gaming actually surprised me, which is good. Embedded, we are going to see sequential growth. It's a high margin business. And so, yeah, everything is going the right direction for AMD. The problem I see with a lot of AMD shareholders is that the expectations are not realistic. It's not an NVIDIA, it's an AMD. But a very, very good AMD, an AMD that can generate tens of billions of dollars in revenue in the future, yes, is going to be worth a hell of a lot more than what it is worth today. It will not happen tomorrow, will not happen next week, but it will happen. It's not a question of if, it's just a question of when. So that's about it for me in this video. Don't panic. Don't forget that we have seen the stock recover and go up quite significantly more recently. Dr. Lisa Su, knows what she's doing. Jean knows also what she's doing. So trust the process, have some patience, and I don't think you'll regret owning AMD further down the line. That's about it for me in this video. Hit all the buttons. We'll see each other in the live stream tomorrow. Bye bye.